there are things in my life, and I'm sure yours, that memories, you forget a lot of things in childhood, but there's some that are just indelible memories. And you look back on them. I was enjoying some yesterday talking to my mother. And she brought up some things that I hadn't quite remembered. And it was really fun hearing her talk about, well, quote unquote, the good old days. But not all the old days are good. And sometimes the things that we bring back to light can really hurt us in adulthood and looking toward the future. Childhood pain can be overlooked, should not be. The good doctor is here to opine today and give us some solace on this particular and weighty subject. Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing, drjohnb.com, where the podcast always reside, and our good friend Dr. John Braccio. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning to you, Dave, and I think it's important to know that inappropriate and unfair treatment in our youth can certainly ingrain negative thoughts, primarily about ourselves. This can also impact how we see others and just about anything else in life. And I think it's really tragic and horrible when you hear persons explain when they were called names like stupid, ignorant, dummy, clueless, imbecile, vile, filthy, shameless, shameful, hopeless, selfish, evil, godless, fearful, and uncaring, ugly. Now, I just throw those out because I've heard persons tell me all of those and far more, and how they impact when they're older, when they never could do things right, when they were kind of singled out as being different or negative or destructive. I think so often people that do this out of cruelty, or they do it out of evil, we can call it, or they just do it because they're angry, or even oddly, sometimes they think they can help the person. They don't really realize the impact this can have on people, because this creates tapes in your mind. I'm a dummy. I really can't do this job. I'm not effective. I'm not lovable, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we really have to work on ourselves when we have these. And everyone has tapes. Some of them are good. Work hard, get things done, be a good person, things like this. But it's the negative tapes, the things that come to our mind that slow us down or hinder us or hurt us in relationships with other people, hurt us in terms of work performance, hurt us in terms of educational achievement. So it really is important to analyze ourselves, soul search, and determine, who am I? What am I going to do in life? What's my purpose in life? How can I be the most effective that I can be? And shed these negative thoughts from the past and move forward into a brighter, sunnier, really much better future environment, including the now.
Doc, who are the perpetrators here? Are they usually parents? Can it be a teacher? Are they other children? Is it a mixture?
It can be a mixture, but usually it comes from the parent. When parents, and we're not talking about huge numbers. I don't want to make this like everybody, but there's angry parents, there's mean parents, there's parents that really don't like children. There are people that like to put people down, and there are people that have this overview, if you will. Well, I'm the biggest, I'm the best, I'm ahead of all the rest, and anyone else is a dummy. That includes my children. And when you say you're an idiot, you're a dummy, you're ugly, you can't do things right, those are really negative, hurting type things. And even when people were trying to maybe even be helpful, kind of in the old world, I had an aunt, a great great aunt. However, whenever I cut her grass, it was never quite right. Okay, I went to lunch there every day. I went to a small Italian parish in Grand Rapids, so I went to my great aunt's for lunch every day. She was great. However, I always whenever I would cut grass, I'd always remember in the back of my mind, she'd be saying, "Johnny," call me over and say, "I missed something," or "I did this." Now, I don't want to turn this into a horrible thing. I'm just giving you kind of an example of how it sticks in your mind. You're cutting the grass. Did I miss this? Did I do that? But that would be more of kind of a cute, funny one in a way. My Aunt Baldini was quite a strong personality in a good way. However, if people are calling you, you're an idiot, you're a dummy, you never get things right, you're disgusting, those are different type things. We can have memories, we can even laugh about how a relative or a family or a parent would say to do things. My dad always would say human perfection. You're trying to do it as best you can out there. But those were kind of things you can look at and laugh. But when you're really called disgusting, despicable, horrible words, these are the things that people carry with them the rest of their life often. And you'll hear that when you talk to them. Well, I've always been a dummy. People were right, or I'm just a dirty person, or I'm a this, or I'm that. And it's really sad how many people carry the negative messaging of their not being enough, not being a good person, and some even feeling horrible feelings about themselves and their acts in life and the whole work. So it's really critical
another debilitating thing that starts early on and holds control for so long. How do you get people to erase those tapes? How do you help them? Or is it not erasing? Is it more or less coming to grips with it, putting it in perspective, and trying to empower themselves by taking that memory and turning it into something else? How do you do it?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. One main thing to do is realize it's not true, okay? I'll just give you an example. I was talking to a woman a little while ago who an aunt had said she was ugly when she was growing up, and she really thought she was ugly. She's not ugly. Wasn't ugly then, isn't ugly now. And over the years, she said when people pay her a compliment, she has a hard time accepting it because in her mind, she has an image of her aunt saying to her mother, yep, she's ugly, and said it. And even though she didn't say it a lot, it somehow stuck in her mind, and it's hard. And I think what people have to do, they have to put things in perspective. And if you work hard and you are trying to do a good job in doing things, you have to let those tapes take over and put things in perspective. And if you did live or you were with someone who was mean-spirited or kind of from the old school, if you pay a person a compliment, they won't work hard. Okay, there are many people that have lived by that and still do, maybe less so now. So they have, if they can kind of get off the stage, if you will, and look at themselves, look at the statements, look at the things they say about themselves, and then add perspective on, does this advance you? Does this help you? What does all this mean? I mean, if you think you're a dummy, an idiot, and a clown, and not likable, now how does that advance you in life? I mean, how does that help you?
No,
it doesn't help you at all.
No.
And that's when you have to go into cognitive restructuring, restating statements. And the hardest thing is getting an objective view of where you are in life and who you are. But again, everyone has the potential to be better than they are, to be more effective than they are, to be a better, more caring person. So if we can kind of honestly sit back and say we're going to really try to expunge negativity, by putting things in perspective. If you were living with an unhappy person years later, you can put that in perspective on why. We're not justifying, but as a reason why they might have said it, and then also putting it in perspective to realize it wasn't true. Someone who said this about you, you're not a bad person. You do try to do things. But, Dave, I'll tell you, when you get these tapes in your mind and they keep coming back, they're really hard. Negativity and resulting depression and high anxiety, they're hard things to get rid of because people will say, well, that's who I am. I've always been that way. How can I be different? And that becomes the question. If a person says, how can I be different? And they're really willing to take a look at themselves and really willing to work at it, whether it's with themselves, with friends, with therapists, with a minister, a priest, I mean, whatever it might be, people have to recognize, yes, I can, as opposed to, well, this is just the way I am. I'm a dummy and don't deserve anyone to care for me. And there are more people than you might think that have these negative views, and they stop them. They self-destruct right at the gates of success. They say, nope, I know I can't do that, and they find all kinds of reasons not to advance, or in relationships, they're not able to express themselves, or they feel their failures. They allow people to run over them, or they seek out people who are going to take advantage of them. So the human psyche is a pretty fragile thing, and if you have been damaged when you were young, and you have to realize it and even be aware of these negative tapes not being true. So many people really believe all these negative things about themselves, even if you observe them and get to know them. You can even say, we know that's really not true, and they will resist that. Oh, I'm not a good person. I don't even know what a good person is. So I think it's important that we try to not only examine ourselves, but also be willing to, if we have friends and relationships or people we can talk to really try to sort some of these things out, even asking, what do you think? How do I present to the world? What do you think? It has to be an honest person, but if you can find somebody who can do that, it's in great friendship. Cicero said a great friend is another you, another person. So if you can find someone or have someone or find someone to trust, it's pretty critical to working on changing the tapes and not allowing the past to control the present and the future, because that's kind of a senseless way to live a life. It's certainly a not happy life, and one that'll be loaded with heartache, with frustration, with depression, with anxiety and negativity. You want a happy life. You want to see if you can have a spiritual life, a life that you can see yourself with a purpose, and just have good, positive views. You have a purpose on earth, and take it and run with it and make the world better and make yourself better. How does that sound? Happier, and don't allow the
It doesn't sound bad. It's also all this a cautionary tale for parents out there to, we're in a pandemic at the current time, but we won't always be. Your words matter, and the day-to-day, the topical comes up, and the stressors of life, but you might be creating a tape, and a permanent tape on that of a child, and that's important for parents to note and remember from day to day. The good doctor, our guest here, Regional Psychological Services, Psychologically Speaking here today with Dr. John Braccio. drjohnb.com. That's the place for the podcast. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Good words.
And one last statement, Dave. I'm passionate about this because I really think that people need to be passionate about willing to move forward and make themselves happier in life. And it can happen. Just go for it, believe it, and work on it. I really believe that.
Excellent. Always appreciate talking to you. Take care. Stay safe.
Well,
Morning
sure.
Wake
Thank
Up.
you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Coming back on 1320 WILS.